Okay. And we are about to start. Just give me a sec. Okay. We're live. Great. Well, thank you guys. So as I was mentioning, tonight we're going to cover the rest of the types of questions in the reading section that we didn't cover yesterday. All right. So let us please start with that. Let me share my screen with you, and then let us, well, discuss these types of questions very much in depth. Okay. Here we are. We discussed this one yesterday as well. Now it's time for us to go to this one, the sixth one. Okay, great. There we are. Awesome. So yesterday we stopped here in the sixth question, and we're going to start right here. So the sixth question, dear students, as you can see, it's called detailed question. And I think that I told you this yesterday, if I'm not wrong, that I think that this type of question is the most similar one to the types of questions we have in South America. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that in South America, we normally receive this panorama, right? It happens that the professor says, dear students, we're going to have an exam from page 20 onto page 30 of your textbook. Study, see you tomorrow, right? So we study, we memorize as much as we can from page 20 onto page 50. And when the time comes, we go to the exam, we receive the paper, and the paper says, okay, according to page 25 of your textbook, who was Napoleon Bonaparte? And well, it gives you options, right? French general in the French Revolution, famous singer, I don't know, a servant, a famous preacher, whatever. So, and that's how it works here normally, right? We study from the textbook to respond to the question, to the very generic and basic question. What did the textbook say about this? No more than that. That's the question. What did the textbook say about that when they ask you this type of questions? Now, and it is exactly the same here. Let me show you. This type of question is very easy to understand because, as I say, it merely asks the question, what does the passage, in our case, right, say about this particular topic? Look at this question. It says, according to paragraph number 1, which of the following is true of the late Cretaceous climate? All right, there you are. So I repeat, according to paragraph 1, which of the following is true of the late Cretaceous climate? Well, if you think about this, dear students, as I say, the question is basically, what does the passage say about the Cretaceous climate, right? Let us read the passage together for us to respond to this question. It says, paleontologists have argued for a long time that the demise of the dinosaurs was caused by climatic alterations associated with the slow changes in the positions of continents and seas, resulting from plate tectonics. Off and on throughout the Cretaceous, the last period of the Mesozoic era, during which dinosaurs flourished, large shallow seas cover extensive areas of the continents. Data from diverse sources, including geochemical evidence preserved in seafloor sediments, indicate that the late Cretaceous climate was milder than today's. The days were not too hot nor the nights too cold. Summers were not too warm nor the winters too frigid. The shallow seas on the continents probably buffer the temperature of the nearby air, keeping it relatively constant. So that's the reading passage, okay? Now, dear students, look at this. We have a bunch of data, information here, but there is a particular information about the climate of the Cretaceous epoch. And we have to respond. What did the paragraph we just read say about this particular topic, the Cretaceous climate? And well, I think that the correct response here is very clear, right? And there's something I want to mention here before I talk about that. The only thing you must do here is to read the necessary parts of the paragraph to find the answer. It could be the entire passage or just the relevant portion. By the way, once you found the portion, remind that the correct answer will express the same info. Maybe the words will be different, but the content must be equal. Okay? Think about this right now. For example, if in your exam, right, the one that we were talking about, the illustration, you read that, I don't know, Napoleon Bonaparte in the French Revolution was, let's say, a general in the French army who led the revolution, whatever. Or if you want more historical accuracy, let's say your topic was about Alexander Hamilton. And in your textbook, Alexander Hamilton was described as one of the founders of the US. If in your exam, you read the question, who was Alexander Hamilton? And they give you answers. He was a singer, he was a servant, he was an important politician for the US, or he was a, I don't know, a lawyer. What would you respond? Of course, he was a very important and famous politician for the US. Now notice that in your textbook, it said that he was a founder of the US. But in your exam, the correct response says he was a very important and influential politician for the US. Is this the correct answer anyways? Yeah, certainly. Why? Because if you notice, the correct answer does not necessarily must contain every single word of the textbook. It shouldn't repeat the words, but the essence of the idea presented in the textbook about Hamilton, who was one of the founders of America, the US, of course, it remains in your exam when the correct response is he was a very important politician for America, for the US. So, as I say, in this type of questions as well here, dear students, the responses are not going to necessarily follow word by word what the textbook said. The essence is going to remain there, the idea. The words can change, but if the correct answer, as I say, displays this idea, okay, with the essence of the textbook, it's correct, it's fine. Even if it doesn't contain every single word of the textbook. And if you think about it, it's fine, it's rational, because at the end, if you were receiving a response that copies the exact same words than in the reading passage, well, everybody would be able to respond, right? But they complicate it a little bit farther by changing the words, but remaining the essence of the idea presented in the paragraph, okay? So in this case, according to paragraph 1, which of the following is true of the late Cretaceous climate? And if you think about this one, well, the correct answer is the fourth one. The climate did not change dramatically from season to season. Are these exact same words repeated in the paragraph? No, but the information, the idea is there. Look at it. In the end of the passage, it says, the days were not too hot, nor the nights too cold. The summers not too warm, the winters not too frigid. What does this mean? That the climate did not change, right, dramatically. The shallow seas of the continent kept the air constant. So, as you can see, with other words, it's expressing the exact same information that the paragraph mentioned about the Cretaceous climate. That's fine, okay? That's fine. It's normally going to happen, actually, that the correct response is not going to follow the paragraph word by word for obvious reasons, but it's going to compel the responder, in this case, your person, to choose it because it contains the same essential information than the reading passage presented, okay? And well, the other answers are obviously wrong. For example, the first one, summers were very warm and winters very cold, excuse me. And if you read the paragraph, well, I think that it's very noticeable that it's actually the contrary, right? It says that summers were not warm, not very warm, or not very frigid, the winters. So it's just absurd. The second one as well, shallow seas on the continents cause frequent temperature changes, right? It's also not true because in our paragraph, it is said that temperature did not change frequently because it says that seasons were very much equal. They were not too warm nor too cold. Therefore, frequent temperature changes is not something that the paragraph illustrates or says, therefore not the correct answer. And the same for the third one. The climate was very similar to today's climate. If you look at the paragraph in the middle, it says the Cretaceous climate was milder than today's climate. As you can see, the only one that remains with the essence, with the information and the idea presented in the paragraph about the late Cretaceous climate is the fourth option, even when it doesn't contain word by word of the paragraph, okay? Is there any question, dear students, with regard to this type of question, how to respond? Please tell me. Question, guys? Any question? No questions about this? Okay, it's fine. Questions then? Very good. Let's continue. Type of reading negative factual information question. So this type of question will ask you to identify something that is not textually stated in the passage. In order to complete this task appropriately, you must read the entire portion you're required to and to pay attention to all details. Have you ever played the word intruder when you were a child? The word, the game intruder, it's basically when you receive a bunch of pictures, a set of different pictures, and all those pictures have a common theme. Let's say those pictures are fruits, all of them. A picture of bananas, apples, oranges, grapes, I don't know, kiwi, whatever. The idea is that you have this set of photographs, pictures that are about fruits. That's the common thing. But there is one picture that is an intruder in that set of pictures. Why? Because it doesn't have to do with that particular set. For example, there could be a picture of a car in that set of pictures of mere fruits. And that will be the intruder, the picture of a car. Because what does a car have to do with fruits? Nothing at all. It's a car. It's not something eatable, not nutritious. It's just a car, right? So it doesn't have to do with fruits. And when you identify that picture, you would say intruder because you found intruder. That doesn't belong to that group, okay? And this type of question is exactly the same, actually. You have the reading passage, okay? And what they say is, in paragraph 4, all of the following questions are answered except, okay? And what it happens is that you have this reading passage, okay, this paragraph, in this case, paragraph 4, and they tell you, okay, here we're going to give you 4 answers. 3 of these answers belong to this paragraph. That is to say, are ideas and topics that have been discussed in the paragraph. In this case, paragraph number 4 that we have here on the screen. But there is one answer that is an intruder because that particular answer doesn't belong to this paragraph. It's a topic, an idea that wasn't discussed in the paragraph, okay? And you have to find that intruder. You have to find the idea, the answer that doesn't belong to the paragraph, okay? That's what you have to do. To find the one that I repeat doesn't belong to the paragraph, okay? The one that is an intruder, that is not being approached nor discussed in the paragraph, okay? Let us read the paragraph to identify it together. It says, dissatisfaction with conventional explanations for dinosaurs' extinctions led to a surprising observation that, in turn, has suggested a new hypothesis. Many plants and animals disappear abruptly from the fossil record as one moves through layers of rock, documenting the end of the Cretaceous up into rocks representing the beginning of the Cenozoic, the era after the Mesozoic. Between the last layer of Cretaceous rock and the first layer of Cenozoic rock, there is often a thin layer of clay. Scientists felt that they could get an idea of how long the extinctions took by determining how long it took to deposit this 1 centimeter of clay, and they thought they could determine the time it took to deposit the clay by determining the amount of the element iridium it contained. There you are. Now, as I say, we have a bunch of data and information here and a bunch of topics here, being approached and discussed. In this set of responses we have on the other side, there are 3 ideas, 3 topics that have been discussed here. There is one that is an intruder because it's not discussed in this paragraph, okay? As simple as that. How to respond to this question? Read the entire portion you are required to, while paying attention to every detail. Afterwards, do not forget that the correct answer must not be textually stated in the paragraph, okay? So, as I say, some answers may be rationally inferred from the passage, but this doesn't collaborate. Focus on textual absences. Look for what is not in the text, okay? For the intruder, for what is not part of this paragraph, okay? As simple as that. So which of these ideas is the intruder? Let's go for the first one. Is there something between the rocks of the Cretaceous and the Cenozoic? This is not the intruder, because this answer actually is a topic being discussed in the reading passage. If you look at it, it says, between the last layer, right in the middle, between the last layer of Cretaceous rock and the first layer of Cenozoic rock, what is there? A thin layer of clay. Therefore, this idea is approached and discussed here in the reading passage. Therefore, cannot be our correct answer here because this is not an intruder and we are looking for the intruder, okay? What about the second answer? Why were scientists interested in determining how long it took to deposit the layer of clay at the end of the Cretaceous? And this is also not the correct answer. For what reason? Very simple. Because the reading paragraph does approach and discuss why were the scientists interested in determining how long it took to deposit this layer of clay. And it says here in the end of the passage that the reason why they were interested is because they thought that by determining the time it took to deposit this clay, they could also determine the amount of iridium it contained. Okay, so that's the reason why they were interested in this process. And once again, this is not the correct answer for the very simple reason that it's not discussed. Is discussed. In this case, the second answer is part of the reading paragraph, but the one we are looking for is not part of the paragraph, but this one is, therefore cannot be our answer. What about the third one? What was the effect of the surprising observation scientists made? And well, I think this is very plain. Is not the correct answer because at the very beginning, it says that the effect of the surprising discovery was a new hypothesis. So this is once again discussed in this paragraph. But what about the fourth option? Of course, by logical discarding, this is the correct answer. Why did scientists want more information about the dinosaur extinction at the end of the Cretaceous? This, dear students, is the answer we are looking for. For us, this is the correct answer. Why? Because it is an intruder. This is not part of this reading paragraph. In the entire reading paragraph, we don't have a single sentence that discusses why are these scientists so interested to know about the extinction of dinosaurs. We are said, how are they going to know? We are said, what mechanisms are they using for investigating this issue? We are said about their discoveries, etc. But we never know the reason why they are so interested. Are they trying to understand human history? Are they trying to recreate dinosaurs, as in the movie, right? Jurassic Park. What are they trying to do? Why are they so interested? Is this responded in the paragraph? No. So once again, this is the intruder because it's not discussed in the paragraph. There is no a sentence that discusses this. Maybe, dear students, this is discussed in other paragraphs of the reading passage. Let us remember this is merely the fourth paragraph, right? It says here in paragraph 4, and here we have the paragraph 4 on the screen. Maybe this is part of the other paragraphs of the reading passage. But given that it's not part of the fourth reading paragraph, they are indicated that it's this one, is our response in this case, is the answer we want to choose. Why? Because once again, it's an intruder, it's not part of this paragraph, and therefore, for us, is the correct answer, okay? Very good. Is there any question, dear students, with regard to this type of question? I listened to your questions. Is there anything that I could clarify here? Nope. No questions? All right, very good. Let us continue. Here we have next question. This is called, dear students, summary question, okay? This type of question asks to select 3 or more statements that summarize the main ideas within the entire passage, okay? Now, these, dear students, is a very interesting type of question. I'm going to explain it right now. And by the way, here I want to mention a very important information. This question or this type of question will typically be your last question. And it must be responded with all the information you've grabbed from the passage. Okay? Let us remember that I told you in the reading section we have 30 questions, 10 per passage. And I think here is a very good moment for us to approach a very interesting topic that we have not discussed. And this is, okay, you have 30 questions to respond, but how many of those questions are going to be, for example, this type of question, factual information question, or per passage, how many detailed questions are you going to receive? The answer for that is unknown, okay? Why? Because the type of question you receive in your 10 questions per passage is totally random and aleatory. I've had the experience taking the exam that, for example, for one reading passage, right, I have 10 questions to respond. 5 of those 10 questions were vocabulary questions. The first type of question we discussed, 5 of those 10 questions. In other cases, I had more varied type of questions. The first question was, was a factual information question. The second question was a detailed question. The third one was an essential information question. The fourth one, an inference, and so forth and so on. But as I say, what type of question you receive is totally random, aleatory. ETS decides that by no reason. It's just a random process they choose. But of course, you need to be prepared for responding every type of response. And that's the reason why I am explaining this to you, okay? But no, okay, you have to know this very, very much strongly and very much clearly that the type of question you're going to receive is unknown until that day, at least, right? Because, well, as I say, it's varied. Sometimes more of one type, sometimes less of one type, or sometimes no question of that particular type. For example, there are some opportunities in which the 10 questions you have per passage do not contain any factual information question. It could happen. Okay, so as I say, it's totally random. But normally, you're going to receive one of each type of question. In those 30 questions overall, you have to respond for the 3 reading passages, right? Don't worry anyways. But now, there's an important characteristic with this type of question, the summary question. So I told you, like reminding, we have 10 questions per passage. The number 10, the 10th question, will normally be a summary question, 90% of the time, okay? Rarely changes, but 90% of the time, the question number 10 is a summary question, okay? And as you can see, what you have to do in this summary question is to choose answers that summarize the main ideas of the entire passage. And that's the reason why they normally leave this question as the last question to respond. Why? For the obvious reason that until that point, they consider you have grabbed enough information to make a summary of the main ideas of the entire reading passage with all its paragraphs. So you know that with a charts strategy, as we discussed previously, you are not necessarily going to read all the paragraphs, okay? Normally you will at the end because you're going to have questions for each paragraph, therefore you're going to read them all. But anyways, my recommendation, my honest recommendation is when you receive this type of question, respond it as the last one. Do not skip all the other questions to come to this one and respond it as first, as some people do. It's not a good idea for the obvious reason that you need to have collected more information in order to respond this one that asks you to summarize all the reading passage. Okay, so please always respond it as the last one. And as I say, normally it's going to be the last question. If it is, fantastic. If it is not, it's going to be another question. Who cares? Fantastic. Okay, very good. Now, there's something else here. As you can see, the mechanism for responding this summary question varies a little bit, dear students. Okay, I want to clarify that. Why does it vary? It varies for the very simple reason, sorry, very simple reason that in this type of question, dear students, you're not going to have to choose your answer by clicking. By clicking on the response with your mouse. Instead of doing so, you'll have to drag your responses within a reply box. Let me show you. I have a video here of how it works on the exam. Look at it. So you have the reply box, right? And there you have to insert, to drag, arrastrar with your mouse, the answers you consider to summarize the main ideas of the reading passage. Because as you can see, you have some options there. You have like 10 or 9 possible responses, but you merely have to choose 3 of them, okay? It's normally 3 different answers you have to choose. But as I say, you believe summarize the main ideas of the passage. But please be very much careful when I say this, because I'm saying the main ideas of the passage. I'm not saying to summarize everything. The main ideas, okay? The main ideas. And as I say, sometimes it could also be 4 answers instead of 3. But the way you're going to know that is by reading the instructions at the top of the reply box. If you look at the video right now, you're going to notice that in the top of this reply box, there are some instructions, right? So what you do is to simply read this, right? And if it says choose 3 answers, you choose 3 and you insert them, right? You drag them within your reply box. And if it says 4, well, you drag 4 responses, okay? Anyways, it's going to be very much noticeable. As I said, you choose and drag, arrastran, right? The responses within the reply box, you consider that summarize all the reading passage and the main ideas it contains. As simple as that. What else? This question, dear students, will require you to drag your answers to a reply box, as I told you, okay? And don't forget this question is worth several points. You should respond it once you have responded all other questions. Now, in order to correctly choose your answers, dear students, you must be very precise in choosing only those answers conveying the central ideas of the passage, okay? Remember that this question is about a summary, yes, but a summary of the main ideas of the reading passage, the entire reading passage. But let us define right now, what are those central or main ideas for you to identify them very clearly and to choose them? What are they? What are main ideas? What are central ideas? I want to clarify that main ideas are not necessarily those ideas that have begun the reading passage. Some people believe that because the first lines of the reading passage contain a particular information, that is yes or yes a main idea, and that is erroneous. The first lines or the first paragraph of the passage not necessarily contains a main idea, okay? Not necessarily. It could contain, yes, but not necessarily. Also, main ideas are not necessarily those ideas that have ended the passage. Some people say, okay, I'm going to go to the last paragraph and I'm going to read just the last 5 lines. And in those 5 lines, I'm sure I'm going to find a main idea. Not necessarily, okay? As I say, not yes or yes, okay? Also, details. Details are never main ideas. Details are things that are said spontaneously and out of curiosity in the reading passage. Things that are mentioned very briefly. Don't even pay attention to those ones. Like details will never be central ideas. They cannot be so, okay? What about the part you remind the most? It happened to me when I took the exam the first time that I thought, okay, so I have read this passage, following the charge strategy, and there are some things on my mind that I remind very clearly for some reason. I remember. So that must mean, I thought, that these ideas I have on mind and I remember very clearly, they have to be main ideas. But that was wrong, okay? I was wrong at that time. Because have you ever thought that maybe the reason why you remember something is just because it seemed funny to you? Or because it was, I don't know, interesting or curious? So you read it and you say, oh, wow, interesting. So you remember it. Not because it was a main idea, okay? So please be very much careful. Don't get biased. If you remember something, it is not necessarily a main idea. Maybe you knew about it previously and you just read it and remembered, but not necessarily that particular idea is going to be a main idea, okay? Now, we have said what is not a main idea, but let us now discuss what is a main idea. What is indeed a main idea? You must choose those answers that have triggered all discussion and data. These are the main ideas. You know what is the meaning of the word trigger, right? Detonar, like those ideas and parts of the reading passage that have started discussion, that have made the whole paragraph to continue. And another type of criteria you can use to define or to choose and to locate these main idea is to think that they are something like solar bodies. You know, we have this galaxy, right? The Milky Way, our galaxy. And our galaxy has one star, the sun, our solar body. And all the planets surround it, right? We know that. Think about the main idea as the sun, as if it were a solar body. Because all the rest of ideas, all the rest of topics, information, discussions in the reading passage surround it. Those are the main ideas, those ideas that stand as the center, as everything surrounds them, everything has to do with them, everything is connected to that part. Those are the main ideas, as I say, all right? So please try to identify them by following these outlines and criteria, right? At the end, as I say, when you consider all these possible answers, as I say, they give you like 9 or 10 possible answers. The only thing you do is you drag within your reply box the ones you consider to be responses summarizing the main ideas of the passage, okay? As simple as that. Is there any question, dear students, with regard to how to respond this type of question, the summary question? Please tell me. Anything here? Questions, concerns, doubts? No questions?
No, teacher.
Okay, thank you very much, Liliana. There you are. So let us continue then to the next question. Okay, question number 9. This is called insertion question, okay, sentence insertion question. So this question will ask you to insert an extra sentence to one of the passages you have read. When you click on one of the answers, the software, okay, this is not important. I want you to think about this question like this. Imagine that you are an English professor. An ETS calls you, right? They say, hi, how are you? Fine, thanks. Hey, we have a trouble. We have fired our last professor who was working for us because we don't like the passages he was designing for our test. Could you come to help us and complete them? You say, yeah, sure. You go to ETS offices, you arrive, and they say, well, here we have this paragraph. And well, we believe it's not complete. We believe there is something lacking. And we have identified what is lacking in this paragraph. Could you please help us to insert this lacking part in the passage so that we can use it in our test? Imagine that. Think about that little story I just made up. ETS is calling you because the last professor was not very good at writing these passages. So they are calling you because they say, okay, well, we have identified there is something lacking here to make this paragraph complete. Could you please help us to introduce this paragraph so that it is fantastic and perfect and complete? Please help us to introduce it in the paragraph. And your task will be to do that. And that is exactly what you have to do in this case. Let us read the question. In paragraph 5 of the passage, there is a missing sentence, okay? The paragraph is repeated below and shows 4 letters, A, B, C, and D, that indicate where the following sentence could be added. As I say, this is the sentence. Let us read the sentence they want us to introduce in this paragraph. Consequently, the idea that the air in the boundary clay came from microscopic meteorites cannot be accepted. This sentence must be included in this paragraph, and we are the ones who are going to introduce it at some part. Where can we introduce it? Not everywhere, by the way. You cannot say, okay, I want it at the beginning. No, you cannot. The places or spots available for you to introduce this sentence are the letters you have there, A, B, C, and D. Okay, A, B, C, and D. A, B, C, and D. These are spots. And where these spots are marking in space, you can introduce this sentence. Okay, as simple as that. Now, where would the sentence best fit? That's the idea. That's the question. Where would this sentence best fit? Okay, let us read the paragraph together so that we can respond later. Okay, it says, it has not been common at Earth's surface since the very beginning of the planet's history. Because it usually exists in a metallic state, it was preferentially incorporated in Earth's core as the planet cooled and consolidated. Air is found in high concentrations in some meteorites in which the solar system's original chemical composition is preserved. Even today, microscopic meteorites continually bombard Earth, falling on both land and sea. By measuring how many of these meteorites fall to Earth over a given period of time, scientists can estimate how long it might have taken to deposit the observed amount of air in the boundary clay. These calculations suggest that a period of about 1 million years would have been required. However, all the reliable evidence suggests that the deposition of the boundary clay could not have taken 1 million years. So the unusually high concentration of air seems to require an special explanation. There you go. So this is the paragraph. And as you can see, well, we have to introduce a sentence in any of the spots we have available, A, B, C, or D. Some recommendations first. Your objective in this question, dear students, is to find where can the rendered sentence best fit in the paragraph, okay? Sometimes, and there are two scenarios. I want to discuss both possible scenarios in this case. Sometimes it will be evident to you because something will appear to lack in the paragraph. Sometimes it happens that when you read the paragraph, you're reading and you say, hey, there's something weird. It seems like there is something missing, as if somebody would have taken out part of this passage and left it like this. You're going to notice sometimes that's the case. That's the scenario. And of course, if that's the case, it's super easy to respond to this question because you notice, oh, there's something weird here. It seems like there is no connection between these two parts. So you take the sentence and you introduce it there because, of course, that makes a connection, right? That's the first scenario. Very easy if that's the case. Now, the second scenario is that likewise, these paragraphs often sustain themselves without the alluded sentences. That is to say, you read the paragraph and you think, hey, but this doesn't actually need a new sentence. So where am I going to include this sentence they are asking me to introduce if the paragraph is very good? It doesn't need it. Now, if that's the case, and normally it's the case, you have to think about this issue in this manner. It is not that lacks something in the paragraph, but it is needed to be complemented. It can be made more perfect. It can be made more complete. And that's the usage you do of the sentence. You are introducing it within the paragraph because you know that, okay, it can be better. It can be more complemented, more complete. That's how you have to think about the sentence. So in that case, you have to find where does this sentence complement the paragraph harmonically. Those are the two scenarios, okay? So in order to correctly choose your answers, you must choose a place within the paragraph where your sentence does not repeat already mentioned information, by the way, okay? Moreover, where it doesn't disrupt the reasoning train of the portion. Your objective will always be to fill a missing part or to complement where the context allows you to, just as I said, okay? Look at this. So let us, we have read this together. Let us summarize it, okay? Verbally right now. This paragraph is basically about air that is said to be a very important element that was present on our planet. And scientists are postulating a theory or a hypothesis. They say, we believe that this element in our planet came from meteorites that fell down from the skies. And they say, by measuring how many of these meteorites fall down or in how much time they fell down and they filled our planet with this element, then we can understand other phenomena and other particular information, okay? And they say, well, we've made our calculations and we think that it must have taken 1 million years for this iridium, or excuse me, for these meteorites to fall down to Earth and to fill our planet with this element. That's what they say, right? But at the end they say, but there is a problem. And the problem is very simple. What's the problem? The problem is that apparently it couldn't take 1 million years for these meteorites to fall down to Earth. They don't explain why it's not possible for these meteorites to fall down and to fill the Earth in 1 million years. They don't explain it. The only thing they say is that it is impossible. Therefore, at the end of the paragraph, if you noticed, what they do is they say, okay, therefore, we need to look for other explanation that help us to explain and respond the question why we have so much concentration of this element in our planet. So they propose a hypothesis, they explain the hypothesis, and they question the hypothesis, they cast doubt upon the hypothesis, and at the end, they discard the hypothesis. That is what this paragraph is all about, right? So look at the sentence now that we have to introduce within the paragraph. It says consequently. Consequently is a connector of consequence, right? As if you were drawing a syllogism. You know what is a syllogism, right? A deductive argument, two premises, one conclusion. Consequently. So you would use this to make a conclusion. So we know that this sentence must be used as a conclusion here in our paragraph. What else do we know? The sentence says, the idea that the ear in the boundary clay came from microscopic meteorites cannot be accepted. So we are saying that this sentence is basically a conclusion that says, and ends up with the topic, that these meteorites cannot be the correct theory, the correct hypothesis that explains the unusual concentration of this element in our planet. Where can we insert this sentence to complement our reading paragraph? In spot C. Why? Because in spot C, as I say, they have completely discarded the theory. They say, okay, it's not possible to have taken 1 million years to fill the Earth with this element by meteorites. It's not possible. Consequently, and as you can see, there is where our sentence will be included. Consequently, the idea that the ear in the boundary clay came from microscopic meteorites cannot be accepted. And well, the rest is just another theory they are looking for, right? A cannot be the case because at that time in A, they are talking positively about the hypothesis. But our consequence or our conclusion here is negative. So it cannot be in that place. Also in B, for example, if you think about that particular answer, they are also discussing positive aspects of the hypothesis, not something wrong or something doubtful. Doubtful cannot be there because our sentence, as I say, is basically closing the topic. You know, this is wrong. It cannot be the answer, or it cannot be the theory, or it cannot be the hypothesis. Therefore, bad. But in A and B, the paragraph is talking positive things about the hypothesis. So if we include the sentence there, we're going to be disrupting that. How can they talk about negative and positive things at the same time? They cannot. That's irrational. So our sentence is perfect in C, because in C, as I say, the hypothesis has been completely discarded, and we are concluding that that cannot be the correct theory about these meteorites and elements you're reading. Is there any question, dear students, about how to respond to this question? Something that I could clarify, please tell me. Any question? No? All right, very good. So no questions then. Let us go to the last question, all right? And this is great because tomorrow we're going to practice, right? But let us discuss for now the last type of question. And by the way, I have to say, this is, dear students, the ugliest brother in ETS family. Why? Because ETS almost never uses this type of question in the exams. In both opportunities, I've taken the exam and I've gotten 60 questions from ETS. I never received this type of question. I know how it works. I know how to respond to it. I'm going to teach you, but I've never received it because, as I say, it's very rare. For some reason, they don't include it. I'm not sure why. They've never explained it. But it's called complete the table question. And it's very easy, by the way. Let me show you, okay? This question will ask you to organize the ideas in certain categories with relationships, okay? You will have to drag the answers which you believe correspond to the category boxes you'll have in your screen. Commonly, you'll be able to drag 2 of these sentences within each box. Let me show you. What is the thing here? The thing is, you have this picture on my screen, and it contains 2 different boxes. One that says faunal analysis in Cuba and California, and the other box that says radiocarbon dating in 2 creeks, fossil forest. What is this? These are 2 boxes that contain, as I say, each of them a category, okay? Your task, dear students, in this particular question is to simply take the sentences you have here on the other side and to introduce them, to drag them, arrastrarlas, within the reply box that contains the category to which that sentence is related. In this case, we are not reading the paragraph because there was no space here to include that. But I'm going to tell you very generally. This was a paragraph about dinosaurs, as we've been reading the entire class. And it talked about 2 different studies and investigations that were made of dinosaurs in 2 different places, one in Cuba and California, and the other one in a fossil forest. The paragraph talked about 2 different studies, the ones that I have mentioned. And as I say, we have here some sentences, and what we will have to do is to drag them within the reply box that matches its category. How are we going to do that? Well, by reading and thinking, hey, does this sentence have a relationship with that category? Let me give you an example. I remember that the 4th sentence, the one that says, over 70 tests were done on fossil samples, was part of the investigations they were making in Cuba and California. Therefore, as I know that that information is part of that particular category, I will take that answer and I will drag it within the reply box. I will do something very similar to the 5th answer we have here. Radiocarbon dating tracked the fossils to 13,370 years before the present. This one, I remember, was related to the 2nd category, the 2nd study they were making in the fossil forest. I will take the sentence and I will drag it within that particular category. As you can see, a very simple question. I will do the same for all the other sentences, but if there is one that doesn't belong to any of the categories I have here, I just leave it in blank. For example, the first one I remember, iridium is found on the earth, had nothing to do with any of these categories. So I would just leave that out of the boxes and I will drag all those sentences that I know have some sort of relationship with the categories I have there. Okay? Is there any question about this type of question? As I say, you're rarely going to find it, but it's super easy to respond. As you can see, it's just matching categories with the responses. Any question, any concern about this type of response or question? No? Okay. No then. So with that, we are finalizing the types of questions in the reading section. Tomorrow we're going to practice for this section, all right? So please don't miss tomorrow's class. And let me right now, before we finalize the class, send something very important to you. I have here, okay. I have here some practices that I was preparing for you this afternoon for the reading section. 4 reading passages, if I'm not wrong, with 40 questions. And here I have them for you, okay? I have the responses here. This is a document with the responses for those reading passages and questions I was preparing. And also here I have the exercise, the reading passages. I'm going to send it to you. Let me send it here. All right, very good. There you have it, as you can see. So please use this to practice in your free time during this weekend, okay? It's going to be an enormous manner for you to improve because I have the responses that include not merely the responses, but also an explanation that I prepare why those were the correct answers. And trust me, this is going to be incredibly helpful for your learning, okay? So there you have it. And that's my gift for you tonight. Well, I'm going to stop then sharing my screen. And before you go, I'm going to take your assistance, okay? So please accompany me until I do that. And help me with your kind responses, please, dear students, to our traditional, okay? Let me do that very quickly. And let's go. Right, sheets of paper. There you are. Okay. Could you please guys help me with another poll? Well, you know that we have to fill 2 polls once a week, and today is that day. So please help me with another poll. So sorry for bothering you, but please help me with another poll, okay? And listen to your names. Is here Grisel Paz?
Yes, teacher, here I am. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Thank you. Thank you very much to you, dear Grisel. What about Daniela Lourdes?
Hi, teacher. I am here.
Thank you very much, Daniela. Fantastic. What about Liliana Sonia?
Present, teacher.
Thank you very much, Liliana. What about Danilo Torrico? He wasn't here tonight. What about Arlette Gabriela?
Hi, teacher. Good night.
Good night. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear Arlette. Okay, and finally we have Daniela Castellanos.
I'm here, teacher.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniela. There you are, guys. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your presence tonight and for your responses. I'm gonna be seeing you tomorrow then to practice the reading section. Try to be punctual because we're gonna start, we're going to start with a lot of exercises, okay? See you tomorrow. Have a wonderful night.
Bye,
Thank
teacher.
You, teacher, you too. See you
Bye-bye.
tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you very